Ida Sophia Scudder was born in 1870 in Ranipet in the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu. She was born in India, but she did not want to live here. She wanted to escape the life of heat and poverty and go back to the US and live a life of comfort there. She graduated from the US and after graduating had to return to India to look after her ailing mother. So she went to India, and there, on one eventful night, there were 3 knocks at the door of her house. There were 3 men, a Muslim man, a high-caste Hindu man, a Brahmin man. All 3 of them had young women in childbirth. She gladly offered the services of her father, who was a medical doctor, but they refused that help. They could not allow their wives to be seen by a male doctor. So they let their wives die. That had a devastating impact on her. She went back to the US. She studied at the Cornell University's Medical College in the very first class that was open to women. She returned to India with $10,000 and a vision to start medical treatment for the women of India. She began the world's first mobile rural medical dispensary out of a converted car. She began ministering to patients going from village to village, and it soon expanded to serving thousands of patients. She also started the first nursing school in India. It was a concept that was unheard of in Asia. She also started a school to train women to become medical doctors. She also then expanded later to a much larger, a more complex medical facility, the Christian Medical College and Hospital, CMC Vellore. I had the opportunity to spend some time there in my student days and I loved it. It was a remarkable experience and I still think of those days fondly. That hospital is today a world-renowned institution. It still is. It had many pioneering techniques. It saw many renowned medical doctors spend good parts of their careers there. For example, Dr. Paul Brand, he was a pioneer in reconstructive surgery that restored mobility and function to the hands of leprosy patients. He was the one who explained that it's not the disease itself that caused the deformities characteristic in leprosy patients, but the loss of pain or sensation. Ida Scudder lived to see her tiny single-bed dispensary become into a world-class facility. She died in Kodaikanal in Tamil Nadu. I'm going to read a pamphlet on those 3 knocks, that famous story, written by Mrs. Catherine Cronk. 3 knocks that summoned in the night. A young girl sat in Northfield, Massachusetts. In her hand was a message which contained sufficient cause for the troubled expression on her face. The message summoned her to come to India to see her mother, who was ill out there on the mission field. Ida Scudder did not want to go to India. She thought almost resentfully of the many members of her family who had given their lives to India. Her splendid grandfather, Dr. John Scudder, might have been the most prominent of New York's physicians if he had not read The Call of 600 Millions as he waited on a patient in New York City. That call from out of the darkness and superstition and suffering laid hold of his heart and drew him out to India to give his life in self-spending ministration. His life and work had blazed the way with a trail of light through India's darkness, and never since it set the light a-shining had there been a day when there was no Scudder in India to keep this torch burning. One by one, they had come back to America to be educated. His children and his grandchildren. One by one, the call of God and of India's awful need had drawn them back. 7 of his children and 15 of his grandchildren had already gone back to India. Ida Scudder had been born there. Her father and mother were there now, pouring out their lives in service. "It is enough," said Ida Scudder, as she sat in Northfield with the summons in her hand. She would go, eagerly, gladly, to be with her mother while she was sick, but when her mother was well, she would no longer bury herself in India. She would hasten back to America to live her life as other girls were living theirs. So Ida Scudder took passage for India to see her sick mother, only to see her sick mother. She assured herself and her friends over and over again that there was no danger of her staying in India, the India that had already claimed more than its share of Scudders. One night, she sat in her father's house in India. As the dusk of the twilight was deepening into the darkness of the night, a knock sounded at the door. The girl answered its summons. A man stood before her. He was a high-born Mohammedan, tall, slender, white-robed. He bowed low and spoke. "My young wife is ill to the death. Our doctors can do nothing for her. Will the gracious lady come to attend her?" Ida Scudder knew naught of medicine. "My father," she answered eagerly, "is a medical man. He will come to see your wife." The Mohammedan drew himself up proudly. "No man has ever looked upon the face of my wife. We are high-born. I should rather, 1,000 times, that she should die than that a man should look upon her face." Silently he turned and went out into the darkness. Ida Scudder sat down and thought. She was in India now. In India, with this pitiful, unpitied child wife who might be dying even as she sat and thought of her. How long she sat, she knew not. She was startled by a second knock that sounded. Possibly the man had been softened by the sight of the agony of his little wife and had come for her father. Eagerly she opened the door. It was not the same man who stood there. Possibly it was his messenger. "My wife," began this man, as had the other, "my wife is very sick. She is giving me much trouble. It is a pity that a wife should give her husband so much trouble. After all my pain, she may die unless the Mem Sahib comes and heals her." The girl looked at him hopefully. Surely he could not be as prejudiced as the other one. "I'm not a doctor," she explained. "My father is a medical man. He will—" The man interrupted her with a proud uplifting of his turbaned head. "I'm a high-caste man," he said. "No man dare look upon the face of my wife." Even as he spoke, he turned and disappeared in the darkness. Ida Scudder's thoughts went with him back to the girl. Perhaps she was only a little girl. So many of them were. Perhaps she was dying even now because no man could help her and there was no woman to help. Something clutched at the heart of the American girl over there in India and choked her throat as she sat helpless and unhelping. It was terrible that two calls should come in such rapid succession on the same night. As she shuddered at the thought and the misery of it all, a third knock sounded. A third man came before her. His voice was almost eager. "My wife," he said, "she is ill, very ill. They told me I could find help for her here, a wonderful foreign doctor who has done remarkable things." At last, there was a call for her father. "Oh yes, I will send my father," she answered gladly. The man involuntarily straightened himself. "Not a man. No man shall look upon the face of my wife. You must come." In vain did the girl plead that her father would come. Sadly and alone, the man departed, as had the two other men before him. Ida Scudder sat down again. Were all the suffering child wives in India calling to her that night? Was one of those endless processions she had read about in missionary magazines actually going to march by her door with unending, maddening continuance? Suddenly, they ceased to be lifeless statistics. They stepped out of the cold, dull type of the statistical reports into warm, living flesh and blood, into flesh that was writhing in agony, into blood that was fast ebbing away. The night passed on. The day dawned. Ida Scudder walked out into the street. As she passed a gateway, she heard wailing and loud lamentation. It chilled her heart. She knew that the life of one of the child wives had passed with the passing of the day. She went on. At another house, the beating of the musical instruments, the shrieks and the moans told her that a second little wife was dead. She would have turned back sick at heart, but a relentless hand drew her until she stood before the rude bier bedecked with flowers, which was to carry away the poor little body of the third wife, whom the skilled touch of a physician might have healed. Unspoken accusations filled her ears, though no voice sounded the words that challenged her. If thou hadst been here, these would not have died. That fall, among the names of those who entered the Women's Medical College in Philadelphia, there appeared the name of Ida S. Scudder. She had heard the call of the women and children of India, the call of her grandfather's love and of his life, the call of her father's and mother's sacrifice. Above all, she heard a call which came from the lips of a man who hung upon a cross. The print of thorns was upon his brow. Nail wounds were in his hands and his feet, and his side was pierced. The cross seemed to be transplanted until it stood in India's soil, and the voice of him upon it said, "Not go ye, but I have died for India. Come, follow me." As she has followed the cross into India, Dr. Ida Scudder has brought blessing and health and life to thousands of India's girls and women. She passes on to the girls and women in America those knocks that are summoning aid in the night. The night is dark in India, and we have light. The call comes not from 3 only, but from 315 millions of India's people. They appeal with an insistent call for some to go and for all to give and to pray. The footnote of this pamphlet says, one of the greatest missionary enterprises ever undertaken by the women of America is the erection and equipment of the Women's Medical College at Vellore, India. Dr. Scudder is in India now, giving herself to this work with unwithholding consecration. Government has given a large tract of land, and American women of all denominations are uniting their gifts and their prayers to answer the calls that are summoning from India's night. Another footnote, Dr. Anna S. Kugler's logical argument about the new Union College is, we certainly need more doctors and we cannot expect many from America, so we must make them here. The only way to do this is to have a medical school for women. I certainly think our boards should support this joint project to give more doctors to India. This pamphlet was distributed for the price of 2 cents each.